Kellie Part 2. Sorry, Ms. McMillan. So, at first glance, it's a given that you and I aren't exactly alike. On the outside, it's easily distinguishable that we may be of different ethnicities. We may not have the same body parts. We may not even dress or speak alike. Delving further, our differences become more apparent, more striking as we explore our backgrounds and the categories into which we fall under. These labels make up our identity and characterize us in the eyes of the world. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay, no, never mind. So, my name is Kellie Phung, and I'm a junior here at Evergreen Valley High School. And yes, I am here to make you a little more woke, hopefully. Personally, I identify as a heterosexual Vietnamese American, residing here in the Silicon Valley. While these labels may not seem impactful where I'm standing, as I'm surrounded by so many similar individuals around me, I'm surrounded by so many similar individuals around me, they exemplify the types of labels that we use to define and categorize ourselves, as well as those around us every day. As useful as these labels are in the formation of our identity, they can just as easily be turned against us, forming a divide of prejudice and discrimination. Discrimination reduces us to simply just our race, sexual orientation, gender identity, nationality, class, or physical and mental abilities. With those that discriminate, sending hate our way if we deviate from the norm or their set norm. But what if I said that a number of people aren't discriminated against for solely just one of these categories, but for multiple at a time? In this day and age, all forms of discrimination combine, overlap, and might I say, intersect. Well, before we move on, let's do a little activity. And so keep your hands raised if you're familiar with any of these terms. So raise your hand if you know what racism is. Good. Hopefully that's most of you. Sexism, classism, ableism, colorism, and finally intersectionality. So a lot of you guys just drop your hands right there, and that makes me pretty happy to see because I will hopefully make you guys more woke tonight. And so intersectionality overall is, next slide, sorry. Intersectionality is the very word to describe this intersecting discrimination. And for those of you that don't know what it is, intersectionality is an interconnected nature of social categorization such as race, class, and gender, as they apply to a given group or individual, regarded as creating overlapping interdependent systems of disadvantage or discrimination. Next slide. As defined by Google when you Google up the term. So this word hasn't been around for very long, as we should know. Its addition to the Merriam-Webster dictionary only occurring last year, while its overall usage being seen only towards the late 1980s. Legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw was the one to coin the term in her 1989 essay regarding feminist theory, anti-racist politics, and anti-discrimination law in response to the erasure of certain minority groups in social justice spaces, and namely, the lack of concern for such issues. Can we go back a slide? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so the best way to put it, as I found, is that there's no one-size-fits-all discrimination, and the aforementioned groups face varying levels of discrimination, depending upon what groups they may fall under, though typically used in the context of feminism. Now, let's take it back a little. So imagine you're a woman in 1976. You have the right to vote as a woman. Your right to vote as a woman was given only 50 years prior, in the 19th Amendment. You were only promised equitable wages for the same work, regardless of your race, color, religion, national origin, or sex 13 years prior. Now, imagine you're not just a woman, but an African-American woman of the time, subject to not only the misogynistic viewpoints of society at the time, but also racism on the basis of your skin tone. Despite the Civil Rights Act being enacted a good 12 years prior. So this said act prohibits discrimination of all kinds, be it based on race, color, religion, or national origin. This is what it was like for a woman of color at the time, namely African-American women. Putting yourselves in these shoes will allow for you to further understand what 5 African-American women of the Degraffenreid versus General Motors case faced at the time. In this case, we see the 5 women file a class action lawsuit against their employer, General Motors, alleging that they were being discriminated against as African-American women. However, their allegations were shot down, with the court requiring that they choose to press charges based on solely one of these prejudices, invalidating the claim that the women were being discriminated against for both their gender and their race. So this case very clearly highlights the issue of ignorance, as the women faced discrimination for both of these traits, and that the problem they faced was not just a matter of either or. You may be asking yourself right now, what importance does this have? Or why should I care? And it's a very fair question. So my answer to that question is that you should care about it just as you care about racism, sexism, classism, and all the other isms we just talked about. Its importance lies in the lack of recognition it receives and how all these forms of oppression actually affect those around you. A definite underlying issue when we struggle today to create a better and more inclusive world. Ignorance towards intersectionality has been evident, yet unrecognized in recent years, as the experiences and hardships of individuals have been undermined and overlooked. I stand here today to not just talk about the nature of intersectionality, but how it is also the start of activism. Recognizing it is the start of you making a difference in this world, as intersectionality is something to be implemented as a worldview and something you practice every day when you recognize discrimination and prejudice. So, notably, a phenomenon in recent years that contradicts the goal of intersectional activism and equality is the emergence of white feminism and its toxicity for people of color. White feminism is a term coined to describe the feminist theories that focus on the struggles of solely white women, without addressing distinct forms of oppression that people of color face. The issue here lies in the lack of addressing the distinct forms of oppression as well as for women, as well as individuals that are a part of smaller minorities, such as the LGBTQ+ community, or those that are disabled. Our labels affect all of us differently, and what we identify as personally shapes how society treats us. These labels may bring privilege, but more often than not come with inherent oppression that is rooted in all aspects of society. Without the acknowledgement of our labels and many of their adverse effects on our social standings and degree of freedom and equality as individuals to do so in white feminism, our activism is not intersectional, and we aren't fighting for true equality at all. Next slide, please. So, additionally, we see intersectional oppression and wage gaps for varying ethnic groups. As found in research conducted by the American Association of University Women, Latino or Hispanic women would only make 53% of what a white male salary would be in 2017. Comparably, a white female would make 77% of white males' earnings in that same year. These statistics reflect not only a wage gap due to the lack of opportunity to women, but also the lack of opportunity and inclusivity to women of color, be it prior educational opportunities or simply opportunities within the workforce. I know everyone is here today to listen and learn something new about themselves or the world around them, as I, among other speakers, are bringing awareness to important and arising issues within today's society. It's clear that there's so much wrong in this world today, with all the different isms to divide it up and create these stratified, marginalized communities. People are set back and crippled by the prejudices this world may have against us, or against them. So as we strive for social equality, the one thing I will urge and ask of you tonight is to reflect upon yourself and to see the extent of your inclusivity and exclusivity, where you draw the line and who you allow to cross the line. Recognize the issues that affect not just you, but also those around you. Change in this world doesn't just start with speakers like me who attempt to shed light on an issue, but rather those in the audience tonight that take this message to heart and act on it. Next slide. Thank you, and have a lovely evening.